In here with Morathi and Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, and over here in this video I'm going to show you how to play her, as well as talk about her incredible strengths in a campaign. So she does have Slaaneshi Corruption, and all the benefits that come from having Slaaneshi Corruption. We're talking about control, I believe, income, all those kind of things, and of course, attrition. She does start at war with a minor faction of the Dark Elves, because apparently a lot of them don't like each other. Now, I'm playing this completely unmodded. It's just worth saying that much right here. So we're just going to start with the declaration of war. This is one of the things you want to do usually because it will end up benefiting you quite a bit in a campaign. You could also try and make some kind of deal with these guys in order to get potentially a confederation with them. Though, that is a long shot at best, though usually Tarux is not going to be a problem for you in a campaign. Regardless of that dynamic, we're going to start researching Founded on Tyranny. Now, Morathi herself, she has a bunch of loyalty benefits, a cooldown to sacrifice to her Karfi, as well as a choice between Insidious and Tenacious as a skill line. There's pros and cons with both of them, but I'll be honest, 5% campaign movement range is pretty significant, as is buffing Shades to such an extent. That said, I'm not necessarily a big fan of using Shades. However, reducing the enemy leadership by 10 is pretty big deal in terms of sieges. You could also go with Tenacious, which gives you more casualties captured post-battle and all the benefits that come from that, or as well as unit experience, ward save, diplomatic relations with Norska, Beastmen, and upkeep to the army. That's a genuine decision in a campaign that few campaigns, like, there's plenty of lords with that kind of skill choice. High elves tend to not work out. Anyway, so we have a battle here. This one I'm actually going to fight. Alright, so we got our Shades right here. We will deploy them in Vanguard against the enemy. Going to get... Well, I don't necessarily care too much about the Witch Elves, but I suppose it's just better to try and keep them alive. Same with Demonettes. Demonettes, you can recruit a whole bunch of Slaaneshi units, and you may want to actually utilize that. Alright, so we're going to send Morathi a bit just to do some annoyances right here, because we do love them. Yeah, it's gonna die. Use the Morathi as a tank. She's quite capable of holding her own. That Manticore, though. Holy crap. Alright. One of the things worth pointing out about Shades is that they do not have a shield, so they're quite vulnerable to range attacks. This is the reason I generally do not like using them, because it starts to feel like I'm going to end up suffering casualties that I can't afford. Like, it obviously will work well against melee factions, but the one enemy you have to fight in a Dark Elf campaign is fighting High Elves. So I understand why people love Shades. That hybrid melee range capability is pretty good, I won't lie. Morathi will do quite well in melee right there. We're actually just going to pull the Lord in that situation. Or we can get the Shades to fire in the backside right there. Yeah, she's taking some damage, but she's not as tough as a Dreadlord in melee capability. But we don't need to kill the Dreadlord, and we can also afford to let Morathi take some damage. Lords will usually... Actually, since I do have Demonettes, might as well take advantage of them. Use them to chew up the enemy Lord. Because why not? It might hurt me in the next auto-resolve, but that is the way of things going forward. This is one of the reasons you actually want to fight these early game battles so much. Sometimes you do want to auto-resolve, but auto-resolving a lot of the early game battles is highly not recommended in most campaigns. We're actually going to want to kill the enemy lord. And the reason is, I believe you gain more experience if you do manage to kill the enemy lord. Come on. Don't tell me the woods. There we go. So make sure you clean up. Alright, so we won that battle. What you always want to get here is, early on especially, is enslave. In terms of battle, in terms of post-battle loot. Make sure you get Root Marcher. Very important to have Root Marcher early on. And use the slaves you have early in the campaign, use them for one specific purpose. Getting the Halls of Mustering to tier 2 ASAP. There's several reasons behind that. We could auto-resolve this one, but it's one of them. In fact, there is a certain purpose in fighting these smaller battles. They don't compare to the big battles, but you will never learn how to fight the big battles if you never learn how to use these smaller armies. And that's how to deal with these smaller armies. It's not just a question about winning, though. It's a question of, can I win in such a way that I have an army ready to go for the next battle? That is one of the keys I would stress out for the game. So for instance, I'm just going to slow down here. What I'm looking for is a gap in their line so I can charge those dark shards so they're not going to become so much of a problem. Might have to pull back some of the shades, but we'll see what they're actually targeting right there. We can send Morathi and that one into the Dread Spears. I mean, I understand the value of shades. The ability of just switching to melee with a unit like this once they close the gap is significant. But I'm not sure I agree with how valuable... Okay, the Demonettes have got that cornered. We're going to send the Witch Elves into that unit. You kind of want to keep them alive until you start getting more and more troops. They're also useful from the perspective, like having a couple of fast movers, like, don't go Dark Riders. Demonettes are your cavalry. I mean, they don't have the charge impact, but the amount of damage that they can do is significant. So we've cleaned this up. Make sure to pursue and destroy. Alright, they're doing some damage. They're obviously gonna take some damage and result of it, but look at the Demonettes, they just charged right in. And they did an astounding amount of damage in a very quick order. That's my cue. Make sure, pursue, 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 pursue. Come on. Pathing. What can you do? Alright, with that settlement taken, loot and occupy it. Rebellions may occur, but that's fine. And now, with all those slaves, and this is where Morathi starts shining again, she can instantly start getting dark shards with shields, and she can get those 2 masters. There are others, of course, who can do this, like actually all of them pretty much can do this, but None have a province that's as good, that starting province is as good as Titan Peaks. And that is where Morathi starts really shining. So you recruit those 2 masters if you own the DLC. If you don't own the DLC, by the way, it's still worth it to get Dark Shards with Shields, simply because they will give you that range capability. And yes, Shades do more damage, unless you forget that they're smaller entities. But Dark Shards with Shields have more sustained damage. So I vastly prefer it, like you get heroes and you can also get melee units, whereas Shades, it's the cost to consider, because you are paying for that unit. While Morathi can reduce the upkeep benefit, you shouldn't feel like you need to play with Shades in her campaign. One of the things I would like to mention is that she actually has great access to magic too. Not just that she's a caster lord, which, yes, her magic's focus. Like, she has a hybrid melee caster lord. But she also has dedicated heroes for magic. So she gets sorceresses in all provinces, and she increases hero capacity for them. So you end up having more casters in a Morathi campaign than all the other Dark Elf campaigns, because of that specific skill. In fact, and that means you don't have to spend skill points on Morathi or decide, okay, I only get 1 mage at, what is it, tier 3. I only get 1 mage. How do I deal, or 2 mages, or whatever you get. You don't even need a mage building, right, to start getting casters. I forgot the details of exactly what it did. Okay, so it increases capacity. But still, you have an extra mage. And that's essentially a provincial capital's worth. Now, that is not insignificant, for the record. Now, you can auto-resolve some battles right here. This is the one I would. Like, it's useful to auto-resolve some of the... to not auto-resolve the very first battles. But there is a nice little trick that I do have over here for you guys. I want to pay attention if I'm going to get a rebellion. I want to pay attention to the garrison. I would hate to have to deal with a rebellion, but at the same time, the benefit of getting a rebellion would be... I think usually if there's a rebellion, the auto-resolve would win. And you can certainly win in a defensive siege against AI. Dark Elf towers can be strong. Or you can just recruit the Lord right there before the rebellion really springs out. But I think I'm going to sack... That's not even worth it. What a mess. Maybe I could have gotten more. Now, you have a choice of Dreadlord with sword and crossbow, or Dreadlord with sword and shield. I believe they lose the shield if they get on a dragon, though. So it really depends on the kind of skill line that they have. So you get character experience, HP, spotter, magic item drop chance. Something with magic item drop chance seems very appealing, though, so I'm going to go with that. It's always going to depend on the kind of trait that you have with your second lord that you want to recruit. So let's get Dance of Death. And I am going to end this turn. Now, my goal is actually to get a kind of alliance with Mazdamundi to some extent. I don't want to spend too much time right here. All right. That actually sent me back. Alright, so I need to explain what my goal was. My goal was... But these kind of things do happen. My goal was to attack this settlement next turn. I would have forced March Morathi. But sometimes things do unfold the way they do. You can't control or script every moment of a campaign. It just doesn't work like that. You can certainly make it easier. But losing 1 turn is not going to matter that much. We can get whatever slaves we have there. Besides, having that extra lord will matter. My goal, as I mentioned, get Skeggy. I'll explain what I'll do here. There's Iron Spike. I want to take it over. Then I want to sell it to the Skaven. Then I want to take Skeggy. Although that is a decision that you'll have to make. And that specific decision boils down to this. Do you want to try and rush Ulfwan? Because you can. And that would help you a lot. Alright, so he ran away. Little bloody coward. I could split my army here. But it depends on how I want to do it. I'm getting very few slaves in point of fact. It's fine, however, I don't need them. I only need slaves. The only thing you need slaves is the Black Ark itself. So you should try and get growth in point of fact and Indomitable Will, of course. Training is not strictly necessary. It's only going to give you 10% right now. It's obviously worth it, but if you're talking about which skill should you go for early Damned On, is definitely like I would say training is more useful long term. Alright, I kind of moved there a bit too much, so... One thing I do like to do, if I'm going to move towards a particular target, I just like to move the Lord out of the settlement. You get a tiny bit of extra movement range in a campaign as a result of that. Now, this is a bit unfortunate because the army moved out of position there. Though I suppose it made the battle easier in certain ways. I could leave some units here. Should I leave her there? That is the discussion, ultimately. Do I split my force? I know this lord would win in this context. I also know there is a value proposition if I... Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I'll use the Skaven to declare war on these guys. The power of diplomacy. Make sure we sell a settlement in a specific way. Money is a problem. When you recruit this many troops, you have supply line issues. It's not strictly something I really care too much about. We do have various, again, declarations of war we could use here to end up benefiting each other. I'm just paying attention to the things that are going on. And I was also checking the difficulty right there. Alright, so I got Hakarfi's blessing. Next up, I'll start unlocking the sorceress. The money calculation is definitely an issue. We do have the ability of printing money, but I'm not too keen on actually using that one. I suppose I could just sell for a smaller amount from the Skaven, take the smaller win as opposed to the big win from the Skaven. You know, sometimes, or they will attack me right there, and there's my money issues resolved. They're dead, right? You can notice how some of these things do end up paying off later on. Now, this is the important decision. You can go for Skeggy, really, and that will end up working. Who is he attacking even? Why are the Bleak Holds still alive after so many turns? I'm guessing there's some AI issues, some AI nonsense. Because Astankia hasn't even taken their main settlement. It does tend to happen, and you just react to it. So, I think I'm gonna go with Manbane. Alright, how many units do I have? Tell you what. It might be better to just move her on the C2. I'm just saying. Besides, I can't really afford them. I'll get the money sorted out in just a second. Playing to your limits. Playing to the very limits of what the campaign can be. Why do you want Skeggy? Well, it's pretty damn simple, honestly. It's a question of, like, do you want to have a friendship with Mazdamundi or not? Because you can invade Ulfwan together with him. And that is a pretty damn big deal, really, all things considered. Now, the Skaven are going to be a problem, but I'll just sell them Iron Spike to them. I could try and trade it for Sulphurets. I'll take that. Sometimes we be scavening, and that gives me a ton of money. That also secures that entire flank. Mazdamundi will usually declare war on those guys, but... Okay, so Astankia is finally taken. Or if they don't, well... It's suddenly not my problem anymore. Imagine that. We can rush construction. And then we can use the Black Ark 1. I would love to do some things differently. Like, I could have gotten the Black Ark maybe a bit earlier in terms of the timing. But regardless, getting this thing sorted out, getting it out there, is an important deal. Just because you want to start growing the damn thing. Also, it's kind of weird with Lokir. There is a bit of a bug where Lokir's Black Arcs do not start with the barrack, so I guess he just has more. Okay, this is where growth doesn't matter. As I said, training is useful. Just take some time. Alright, we don't need that building anymore. Or if we do, it's so many turns far ahead, far removed that we can always instantly construct it very damn easily and very quickly. But yeah. Making an alliance with Mazdamundi is one of the keys of success over here when you are playing a Morathi campaign. You can definitely... Okay, she can't land because of the location of this specific army. Make no mistake, I will be selling this to Mazdamundi, but the entire goal, operational goal, is get roughly 2 armies, maybe 3 if you want them, and go for Tyrion as quickly as possible. Doing so will end up benefiting you in quite a substantial way. So I don't know if they have any other armies. I obviously assume they do. I'm not going to get Dread Spears. Dread Spears are useful, a couple of them here at a time. All that. I do like Dark Magic. That's the reason I'm going with that. You could always make a choice with regards to traits, but, well, let's just go with Intelligent then. We are losing money, but that's not necessarily a big problem. In fact, it's pretty much expected. Playing a Dark Elf campaign and having a positive income is definitely possible, but you gotta ask yourself the following question. Is it worth it? Because you can always pay money for slaves. And so why would you care about your baseline income when every single province can be spent 400 slaves? And eventually you will have so many slaves in your campaign that there will be an unending tide of actions. And the more provinces you have, every single province works on its own individual cooldown. So using that mechanic ends up really helping you dominate the entire campaign process. And that is no small thing, that I would say. Here, I wish I could guarantee that I will be able to out-resolve, but they have Marauder champions in that specific settlement, so... yeah. This is one of those annoying situations to deal with, though maybe not as annoying as one might think. We're going to exploit feuds. The reason I want to exploit feuds is a bit of control, but I could just start getting upgrades. With Dark Elf research, you just kind of don't care about what you're getting. You just get the things that are required for the various upgrades, because getting the Black Arc benefits is the main important event. We can also move this Black Arc. Alright, so we're gonna swap some units around. Give one master to that other army. Alright, what does she have? Yeah, I think I'm gonna give her Lore of Shadows. Just to complement Morathi's own skill, like... I mean, Chillwind is always nice. And as I said, the money keeps flowing. I could maintain control of this location if I wanted to, but what's the point, right? What's the range on that camp? I mean, why not? Yeah, we have a resource of money. We don't need to declare war on the ogres. Like, the Ziggurat of Dawn is not strictly a huge benefit right now. I would like to point something out, and I wish I had Toggle Fog of War. Your campaign objective is to actually destroy Karganef, but going for Ulfuan is much better because you don't want to go into Ulfuan later on, or you don't want Ulfuan to invade you. So it's kind of a weird dynamic in a campaign where the thing you're told to do just runs counter to your long-term objectives. So here we are. The way you deal with most sieges, and this is why I'm always iffy on any changes, is like, let's make walls harder, let's make ladders harder, let's make X, Y, and Z harder. You know, I could talk about the siege rework in a great detail, but here's the problem that I want to highlight. You can make walls as difficult as you want them to be. It still won't change the dynamic. Obviously, there's some spells right here that are going to be a nuisance, but I have no reason in a siege, in most sieges, that those spells are pretty nasty, actually. I have no reason in most situations to, if I'm playing with a ranged army, if I'm playing with a melee fact, God, he's doing a lot. It's gonna be spreading the love. All right, where did they arrive? Did they arrive? Pay attention, I guess. He doesn't have infinite winds of magic, that's for damn certain. Like, with a melee army, that's a different discussion. With a melee army, you try and build such a strong force that you can win. And in fact, that's the thing. You are forced to. I'm going to bring all my lords. This is why having so many lords and heroes is bad. Ranged units, you just position them. I swear, that spell is bullshit. What the hell? I mean, too clumped? Probably. But that's a bit much, isn't it? I can't wait for CA to remove Siege Attacker and then say that's a great thing for sieges. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure the entire dynamic is kind of... Like, if they're gonna go down the path of what they thought where sieges were in, like... And I can even relate to older Total War games. Sieges have never worked under the idea that people have fantasized about, ever. Like, at no point. I remember this back from Medieval 2, Rome 1. Like, sieges could be epic back in those games. But they were not so necessarily ground-standing, you know, superb. And besides, you could trivialize them much in the same way you can trivialize sieges here. Okay, gonna pull those man-heroes back. Alright, let's try and get... See, this is the reason you don't want to bring melee a lot of the time in. You'll end up taking more damage. Did they die? Huh. I guess they did die. Jeez. Well, there are Marauder champions, right? So it's like, I guess that's... Or they just routed. There's a little trick I could use. I mean, people always talk about these things like, oh, sieges. Who the hell is keeping that thing up? That's my question. Because there's literally no one there. Alright, this is one... Actually, it was one the moment I started the battle, but that's a different discussion. Like, it's just, you know, we can talk about level of frustration. Between the artillery... Here, have back at you. You hit me with magic, I'm gonna hit you with magic. Everything is equalized in this great universe. Gonna have to pull back the demonettes, because it's not because of the damage they're taking, it's because I'm concerned, let's just say, that they will just collapse. Many damn things. One key point to make about all of this. Taking all this damage, and yes, this was highly inefficient as well. Taking all of this damage is actually counterproductive to you winning the battle. Because the more damage you take, the more it benefits the AI. The bloody hell. I swear, this guy... I mean, I know what it is, but how many? There we go. Finally. Finally, at long last. I swear sieges would be better if they didn't do this. 10 leadership is an immense ridiculous nonsense, and it just means that the AI will not break. It shouldn't be that sieges are the longest battles. Like, sieges might require multiple turns to invest, I understand that, but they shouldn't be the longest battles to have in a campaign. Maybe just some food for thought on the subject. And with that literally sorted out, we can even sack it, really. He's gonna go via the sea, but it doesn't matter. And what? I swear that is the most frustrating, annoying damn bug in the whole damn game. That situation. I'm gonna get more Blackheart Corsairs. I just want that melee, pure melee capability. Handbows can be useful, but I have plenty of Dark Shards. What do you do after this point? And ain't that the question? Well, there's many decisions that you can make in the campaign right here. I would still save skill points for Morathi to get her special skill line, though. Keep in mind, miscast base chance minus 15% is a pretty big deal. But you can decide. You can go for Mother Stankia, though she doesn't really hate you that much. You gotta be concerned that she might declare war on you. Or you can go for Wolfwine. If you're gonna go after Stankia, I recommend doing it sooner rather than later. Do you need to go after Stankia? No. Is it useful to go after Stankia? Well, these two resources give you, there's 2 lumber resources, and both of these give you significant economic benefits for your Dark Shards and Dread Spears and Shades, even if you want to go down that specific path. So if that's your intent, that's the sad part of Mother Stankia. She is someone everyone can get along with in this entire area, but everyone kind of wants to kill her because her province is just so damn good. Will they attack the Navy? I don't know. And that's one thing that concerns me. Either way, we now set sail for Offer. And bear in mind what the turn is. And some details might be different in your campaign. Some things might work out markedly differently when you are playing this entire situation. But the core point remains. When you're playing a Morathi campaign, it is that ridiculous roller coaster. It is that nonsense that you just saw occur right there. We're gonna take a bit of attrition. You have a decision to make in terms of how approaching Wolf 1, by the way. Oh, if Caldor's still alive, you can use them as a dumping ground, if you will. It's a bit of a shame that part of the sea is calm, but alright. And we got tons of money, too, so I can start getting to tier 3, I can start recruiting units, I can get wine, I have a lot of slaves, too, so I can push the growth even further. As stated, Morathi doesn't screw around. I think I'm going to declare war on these guys just for Mazda Mundi to join in. Keep him occupied, keep him busy. Keep him away from Wolf 1, because you can handle that your own. He's kind of like a nice insurance policy if things go sideways, but yeah. I do love when the AI has 2 armies next to each other like that, because it just makes it so easy to deal with the damn thing. I'm not going to recruit more troops right here, but I am definitely going to use And that's the huge benefit of Soneshi Corruption, in that you do get that. And you might want to use it. I don't believe I have enough slaves to go all the way right here. I'll need to fight the battle with Kalidor. Different discussions. You do benefit quite a bit from having the Druki Anointed, because they're and Death Hags. Both of them are casualty replenishment hero. You have an extra casualty replenishment hero, so that means your casualty replenishment is either higher, and he's far more durable than a Death Hag, or you have more heroes to spread around. Bear in mind, Druki Anointed increased capacity at tier 4, not tier 3, so you only get 1 at tier 3. But 1 is still something, and I'm not going to argue otherwise. We could use that, we could not. It's really the decision of bloody Mazda Mundi. Alright. I'm just going to have to use this. It might affect certain things in long term, but building up your provinces as quickly as possible is also important. So let's end the turn. And yeah, that's a good, solid start for Morathi, and also kind of explanation on why she's so damn ridiculous and awesome. Noctilus. How quaint. It's fine. We can... We could just sail around, but the problem is... Yeah. Landing in a location where you're not going to take attrition is something of a... discussion in its own right. Anyway, Costin signing out. I might actually continue this campaign if there's an interest from people in watching it, so I just traded that, and there is a battle awaiting me in Lothern, but it's not really going to be a strictly difficult, tricky one. And there's also different ways I can win. That's not really the big limit in this campaign. I'll see you next time.